senior foreign policy advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy. He's a TV correspondent for CW6 News San Diego, as well as One America News Network, and he streams live on Facebook. All right, we got that. And also Periscope.com. Hey, Kimberly, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself, Chuck?
Pretty good, and I'll be looking for your live stream here on Facebook. I always am about the last guy to join up with it, and I believe you. Let me check. Yeah, there it is right there, the lovely Kimberly. Hey, and Kimberly, we've been talking about hiding in plain sight, U.S. Foreign Ministry bills, which is FMS gone rogue. Going to pick up on that, but kind of sad news in the world of government officials.
Yeah.
One of the good old guys died, right?
Yeah. I actually wrote a little piece on it this morning. One of the good guys, as I always refer to Congressman Jones, was a really good lawmaker because he was able to see that he had made decisions that had impacts on other people much differently than most politicians do. And once he recognized and realized that, in his opinion, he had made a mistake about going to the Iraq War, he did what nobody else has ever done. He shifted gears, and then every day and every time a soldier would lose their life in the Middle East, he would write letters to the family and their loved ones. And over the last 15, 16 years, he's written more than 12,000 letters. Well, last night on his 76th birthday, he passed away, and there's not going to be another guy like Walt Jones. He was just one of the most decent people that you would ever think to meet here in Washington, D.C. He didn't fit here because he's such a good guy.
Yeah. An interesting thing about him is he was representative of North Carolina's 3rd District, serving since 1995. But his father, Walter B. Jones Sr., was a Democratic Party congressman in the 1st District. You don't find that very often, do you?
No, I think in the end, Walt he considered himself more of an independent than anything else. He just, he looked at life that, again, most politicians don't think. They're like, okay, this is going to be a great statement that's going to get me a lot of camera time, and I'm going to get in front of the media on this. He never thought like that. He thought that once he made that decision to vote for the Iraq War, that once he realized that, the WMDs were not to be found, he took that, very, very hard. And we have to remember too, in his district, he has Camp Lejeune. So he lost a lot of, his constituents had, lost their lives in the war over in the Middle East. And he felt very badly about that. And he did, he worked every day to make things better for Americans and to let people know that, his vote does matter, and that he wanted people to know that he took that very, very seriously. A lot of people can look at these issues and try to, say what's best at the time being, but Walt lived life like that every single day. He fought to have the pictures of these warriors who lost their lives in the halls of Congress. Congress said, we don't want those on the walls. And he's like, we need them there to remind us every single day that we have put people in harm's way. And in the end, he won his case, and the soldiers, their pictures were placed in the halls of Congress. So at least some of the members were able to, look at some of the consequences for some of the decisions that they made.
Well, and you have a quote here where he was talking about bringing the troops home. And the quote, I did not do what I should have done to read and find out whether Bush was telling us the truth about Saddam being responsible for 9/11, having weapons of mass destruction, which is the city. CRN Wilder with my guest Kimberly Dvorak, and Senior Foreign Policy Advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy, and talking about a post that she did. In fact, you can read this on Representative Walter Jones. You can go to Kimberly Dvorak, DVORAK.wordpress.com. Kimberly Dvorak
No, I mean, in fact, I've talked to one widow who actually said that was the only letter that she got, and she appreciated it, more than anything. This is what, like I said, with Walt, he was a different kind of politician, and I think his life ought to be dedicated to these, young, congressional people that are coming up through the ranks now, to what it really means to be a representative of the people, if you will. He was able to take a mistake and turn it around and make something better of it. I don't know that he ever really got over the personal loss of all these soldiers, which he took, to heart. But he did what he could to make sure that, that Congress knew what they were doing and vowed not to make that mistake again. I think what we're seeing right now with the, possible shutdown again this week with the government, and everybody just being Democrat or Republican, and they're not willing to sacrifice and compromise on any of these issues. I think that, Walt's going to be looking up there, hopefully that looking for someone who's going to take that mantle of being that good guy, because to me, he was that good guy.
Yeah, and you see all the little, I'm trying to think of a nice word here, I'll put on petty grievances that go on now with, the newly elected people and the people that are still in and the people that they're trying to kick out of office. And compared to what this guy did, I mean, their little humps in the road are very, very insignificant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Congress, I mean, they have an incredible impact on the American people. I think they need to start realizing and recognizing that they actually do have a responsibility to the people in this country, because not very many of them are representing their constituents. They're representing themselves to be the next president. They're representing their side to, change the climate. Everybody's looking at, border walls or barriers or whatever. In the end, these people are actually supposed to be representing the American people. Walt Jones got it. He got it. And, he was a better man. I think that he left a better country. And at least he was a good example for these young people coming up. I really hope that they kind of look at the life well lived, and that he really dedicated his life to making sure that, America didn't jump into these, wars willy-nilly.
Well, and thanks to you, Kimberly. I'm sure you're one of I'm trying to think, probably very few that gave this guy the accolades that he deserved.
Yeah.
And so I congratulate you on that.
Yeah.
Once again, if they want to read this, they can go to KimberlyDvorak.wordpress.com, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, it's just, he was, I'll remember, I'll say one thing, then we can move on to back to the war machine, I guess. The first time that I was introduced to Congressman Jones I was in San Diego, and I received a phone call, and the gal on the other side said, "I've got Congressman Jones on the line for you here." And I'm like, okay, this must be a joke. I mean, nobody's calling me in San Diego. And no, the congressman wants to talk to you. And as I ended the story, he said, "Ma'am, I just want you to know wrong is wrong and right is right, and what's going on here is wrong." And that was the beginning of our, relationship, working together and trying to put back the pieces of whatever the story may have been, because I went to him on a number of different stories, and he was always there to make that diligent decision and very reflective to make sure that, even I as a journalist looked at things from a different perspective. And he made me a better journalist, and my heart goes out to his family. And again, I just really, my hope here moving forward with, losing someone like Walt Jones is that these younger, people that are representing the government now, that they actually can look at this and go, what, there's something to be learned here. And maybe we all ought to be a little bit more like Congressman Jones here.
Well, he was 76, so you figure his daughter probably 40s, 50s. I wonder, anything about her? Is she going to go into politics?
No, I mean, he was pretty, his wife, they were all very quiet. I mean, he was a public servant. And I think that, especially since his father was a public servant as well, that his wife surely knew what she was in for. But they're very quiet. I mean, he was never seeking, and his family, they were never seeking the limelight in any of this. And he ended up getting a lot of limelight because he actually took, the U.S. government to court over, starting wars, outside Afghanistan and going into Iraq, and what's amounted to the authorization to use force, against these other countries, and how a lot of people are saying, well, this all falls under the 9/11 umbrella. Well, he was able to kind of highlight that this didn't follow or was under the umbrella of that 9/11 attacks. And, in the end, he didn't win, but he never gave up. And there were a number of different, congressmen and senators that stood behind him while he took the shots on this. But he completely challenged the notion that this country can go to war without any kind of congressional act stating that we can do so. I realize we're fighting against ISIS and it's terrorism, and they don't have a particular country and all that, but it just doesn't seem like we're really doing all that much to step back and say, what else can we do as a country? How can we kind of, solve this problem? Because after 17, 18 years of war, we're kind of where we were from the get-go on this. And I think that's something that he wanted to challenge, and he wanted young people to challenge.
Yeah. Well, I would assume, and I don't think I'd be too far off, that Representative Jones would be upset with what Kimberly and I have been talking about, and that is U.S. Foreign Military Sales Program, FMS, okay? It is legislation that Congress created, military sales program, and like Kimberly says, like any well-intentioned government program, it has morphed into something other than its intended purpose. And in this case, these are frightening words, it's an international arms trafficking business. With your United States government involved in it. Let me give them just part of this right here that we mentioned last week. A number of these programs that are alarming are about arming Middle East countries, particularly the United Arab Immigrants. And these weapons include Black Hawk helicopters, F-16 fighter jets, and some more advanced than our own. Now that kind of throws you, how are we giving airplanes that are more advanced than what we have? Yeah. Are we giving them our next that we should be using, and we're not?
Well, the thing is that we're not necessarily, I mean, we're actually, it's even, I think, worse than that. We're not only just giving them the military gear, but in this particular case with the F-16s, we are allowing, and Lockheed Martin is partnering with UAE to manufacture these planes in the Middle East. And by doing so, now we take the authority or the restrictions from selling these to bad actors, if you will. And this will be in the hands of the UAE, which is, partnered at the hip with Saudi Arabia. So do we feel comfortable knowing that not only are the America's workhorse F-16s, going to be flying continually over the Middle East, but where are we going to find these planes in the future? Now that they're manufacturing them in the UAE, we don't have any control. If they decide they want to send them down to Somalia, maybe they want to send them to Mexico. I mean, we just don't know. The danger with all of this, of course, is that as with the drones, the technology gets out, and then it makes it even harder for our men and women in the United States, military to actually protect us. But also, I think this really kind of comes down to border security as well. I mean, is our border, really that well protected? Are we going to be fighting on our southern border because, we've given UAE has sold the aircraft to the drug cartels, perhaps? I mean, these are all of the consequences that come with the foreign military sales program. A lot of the military gear, a lot of it is actually given to these countries on grants, so they're not even paying for them. In this case, with the F-16, the UAE is actually paid for them. However, now working with Lockheed Martin, they have given the technology to them, and they've allowed them to actually manufacture these in the Middle East. And again, when we started talking about allowing weapons of this technology to get out. You just have to wonder what's going to happen around the corner. Do we really trust those people?
You know, and Kimberly, it's like, have the Congress critters decided to ignore the words of sponsors of terrorism?
Well,
you know, Saudi Arabia, I mean, and human trafficking, all of that, you know, who knows? That may be involved in the borders too, you know.
yeah, well,
no doubt about it.
There's no doubt about it. And the easy answer is to say that, you know, they will be doing their due diligence on that. That's what they should be doing, but they're not. The case is that the defense industry has become very good at, you know, putting factories in manufacturing plants in cities all across this country where there are congressmen and women who make decisions based on having that plant, because if they don't have that plant, they'll lose jobs and the people, their constituents. So this is how they get around the Congress critters, as you refer to them, how they get around the argument of saying, how can we continue to do this? The Department of Defense, their line is, well, you know what, if we're giving them these weapons, and they're going to actually be fighting their own battles, and we're not going to have to be there doing it for them. But you know, that's presumably been the party line, you know, for the last 17 years. And as I said in the intro, I don't know that we've really moved the needle anywhere. And so you just have to, I mean, again, you have to look at these. These weapons have the potential to kill a large sum of people. Walt Jones kind of understood that. He got that. And you know, this is what I'm hopeful that Americans are going to be a little bit more aware about this issue as we continue to talk about this, because it's very important. I mean, and this is life and death for a lot of people in the Middle East. It could be life and death for us here.
The interesting thing, and this kind of threw me when I read your report, you were talking about the Libyan National Army, LNA, and you say they gained the upper hand last year in a conflict between rival groups in that war-torn nation. Now, here's what threw me off. The United Nations, okay, received evidence that attack helicopters were delivered to LNA April 2015. And what surprised me was that the United Nations would admit, you know, that had happened. It seems like the way they are, they'd hide it. Like, yeah, give them all the weapons you can, you know, and they'll fight the big Satan. Yeah, put it that way.
Yeah. Well, you know, I give, you know, big props to the UN for at least, you know, doing this report. And there are a number of other reports out there. Last year, Congress did a congressional review of these foreign military sales. And again, as, you know, the weeks kind of unfold here, there's going to be a number of follow-up stories to this. And each is going to have a, you know, kind of, you know, tell the tale of what has happened with the sales of all of these weapons, and has it really made, you know, these countries better off, or has it, you know, chilled relations with the United States and in various countries around the globe? It's shocking to me to see what we're doing, and to see that we're doing it, you know, they're kind of hiding in plain sight, as the title indicates here. As far as I've been able to find, there's nothing illegal about this program. And you know, that should shock people, because one would think when you're, you know, selling aerial refueling planes to, you know, Saudi Arabia in the Middle East, we may not want to give them that technology. But it looks like they've kind of got off, they've been slowly skating under the radar here, and not a lot of people talking about it. However, last week CNN did talk about it in an article, and they said how bad the program is, and they referred to, you know, Donald Trump being the president of the United States. And in this article, I had the next article that will be coming out tomorrow, I had to actually let them know that in 2015, President Obama was the president, not President Trump. So in essence, they were trying to put this on Trump, when in fact, you know, President Obama was the largest weapons salesperson for this country ever. He doubled what George W. Bush did. So that, just putting it in that context, he did it to make money. He did it to make the defense industry happy. And unfortunately, we're starting to see some of the fallout from that now.
Wilder, CRN, with my guest Kimberly Dvorak. policy advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy. And the interesting thing here, so they got this, that's derived, AT-802i. It's a single-engine plane, all right? And this plane originally designed for agriculture or firefighting. Well, it was supposed to be for, United States counterinsurgency operations. They sold it to the UAE. And the group also confirmed that Libya received a shipment of 93 armored personal carriers, 549 armored and non-armored vehicles. You could almost replace the National Guard on the border with all those, Kimberly.
Yeah, it's funny you should bring up the border as well. I mean, the president's going to be headed down there, and it looks like his approval rating's up to 52%. So, I think the American people are following this socialism talk that the left continues to talk about. I think that a lot of the military assistance that we're providing to some of these other countries are finding themselves in countries that, Libya continues to be a war-torn country. There's not really any political movement in place that's going to, get it out of the chaos that the French and that President Obama, put us in here. And when you see things like this, you just, you look at what happened in Iraq with ISIS raiding the piggy bank, so to speak. It just, we're providing weapons to people that, don't have the best intentions. And in some cases, our guys and gals that are serving in the Middle East in certain situations, they don't have the up-armored vehicles. Remember when they had to, their families were, sending them, special, vests so they could protect themselves from IED attacks. This is, the United States government kind of really doing the bidding of people in the Middle East when we shouldn't really be involved in that whatsoever. And the consequences are this. We see this over and over again, that terrorists, weapons dealers in the Middle East, they will always barter, sell, and trade weapons because it's always in season. Well, in the case of Afghanistan, they have the fighting season, and then in winter they kind of lie dormant. But this is in essence how certain countries in the Middle East actually operate. In North Africa, they're very tribal related. They're not a society, and that actually is going to come back to haunt us as we see in conflicts moving forward.
Well, I'll tell you, in our next report next week, maybe we can get more into the human rights watch that you mentioned here. Terrible civilian statistics on death. Let me ask you this. You mentioned now that you're going to keep continuing on this report.
Yeah.
And where's the best place to go for the listeners?
Well, the listeners could probably go on to the American Conservative website and magazine, because that's where the story is going to be appearing tomorrow. And that's a good place. I want to drive people to that news site. That's some place that I'm going to be posting a lot of my work. And also the KDReport.com. Go to my YouTube channel, follow me on Twitter, all the usual things out there that we all try to drive traffic to our sites so people can read stories about this. And I think that these are meaningful stories, and hopefully, like I said, these young people that are taking over can actually learn from some of this stuff.
Hey, shoot me that American Conservative Magazine.com or whatever.
It's theamericanconservative.com. You have to have the though. The American Conservative, all written out.
American Conservative. Okay.
It's theamericanconservative.com.
Okay. Hey, thank you very much, Kimberly, and look forward to our next visit. Kimberly Dvorak, DVORAK. Coming up next, Alex Newman. We'll be right back.